one thing that is interesting about President Trump is he has come into power proclaiming himself a warrior for free speech. He has said this
Yeah.
explicitly at the inauguration, and since he's proclaimed that he's signed executive orders forbidding the government agencies from engaging in censorship or bullying of, bullying of views. How do you rate the president so far on free speech, both rhetoric and action, and where the two divide?
You know, so far, the Trump administration, and I live in Washington, D.C., it's been kind of a chaos tornado, and it's very hard to keep up with what's going on. And it's very hard to get accurate reporting on what's going on because sometimes you'll have just hyperventilating about what Trump's actually doing that doesn't really bear resemblance to what he actually did once you read it. So we've been trying to figure out, like, how has he been so far on free speech? There's a lot of good news. I mean, one of the things that people really need to understand is that the DEI bureaucracy, particularly on campus, almost everywhere else it existed, is essentially the orthodoxy police. It's not good for academic freedom. It's not good for free speech. I mean, I remember hearing like someone who should really have known better saying, in academia, for example, when state governments say we have to get rid of DEI offices, that they can't because that would be a threat to the academic freedom of that institution. And being like, that's like saying that it's a huge threat to free speech to get rid of your censorship department. That's basically exactly the best parallel. So we've definitely seen some things we really like so far coming out of the Trump administration. Another one is that they're bringing the Title IX restrictions back to the 2020 deal that we actually were able to sort of help encourage with the Trump administration that is much more protective of speech. People don't know this, but harassment rationales have been devastating to freedom of speech on campus. And of course, there's terrible due process issues that come out of the way Title IX is enforced. I also, and this is not a fire position to be clear, the idea that the Department of Education might go away. I think I have a hard time thinking about something positive the Department of Education brought. It was one of the major reasons why universities passed speech codes. So that we see some things that we really like. I'd say at this point, I'm probably the most concerned about some of the bullying of the media. And some of so for example, probably the single case I'm the most concerned about, FIRE is already involved in. And this is the case of Ann Selzer in Iowa. She was a very well-respected pollster, but she had some kind of old-fashioned approaches, including the used to be the gold standard of calling people on the phone to figure out where they were on various issues was the way you did it. And she ran one of these polls as close to retirement, and it came out that surprisingly, Harris was actually ahead by 2 points in Iowa. Now, this got picked up by the news, like this very reputable pollster had come up with this, and it was everywhere. And it actually turned out she was wildly wrong.
Yeah.
She was way wrong. Like it was nowhere close. I think she was 12 points off or something like that. But she got it wrong. And she publicly owned, she even like did a post-mortem being kind of like, I probably made this mistake and this one doesn't probably work all that well anymore. But Trump, in his personal capacity, has sued her on using an Iowa sort of consumer protection law, usually used against commercial speech, as in advertisements, claiming that this was somehow akin to fraud. So we're defending her in this case because I think that if you could suddenly use consumer protection laws to go after reporting or polls you don't like, that's a very bad sign for freedom of the press going forward. So we have seen some cases that we're very concerned about, but it has been an interesting mixed bag and also incredibly difficult to keep up with.
If you like this clip, we've got so much more where that came from. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you won't miss our new videos as they come out each week.